Hello, my name is Darren Thomas, and I am the Director of Educational Research Techniques. In this video, we're going to be looking at case statements as they are used inside SQL. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, when we are using a case statement, that is the terminology that is used in SQL to refer to an if-then statement. So in other words, with if-then statements, or as we call them, case statements in SQL, the database is going to execute a certain behavior when it meets some sort of a criteria. That's how it works. If the if statement does not meet a certain criteria, it will perform a different action, as we will see in a second. So why don't we learn by doing and see how this works out? So I'm using the season stat database that has NBA statistics in it. And so we're going to start by selecting two columns from the table here, the season stats table. And that's going to be position, which is going to be POS, and also team, which is going to be TM. And now we're going to use our case. So we're going to do case, then when. This is how you do it. And then from there, what we do is we type in our criteria. So when POS equals SG, notice the single quotations, that actually makes a difference. Then what we're going to put in a new column is yes. And then we're going to end as, this is where we give the name of the new column, shooting guard. Notice how shooting guard is not in any kind of quotation marks. And then after that, we have to put from whatever table it comes from, season stats. So I press Control Enter, and you can see right here that everything is pulled up. So when the criteria for position equals shooting guard is going to put a yes here in the shooting guard column. So you can see in our second row we have a yes. And then you can see, let's see here, row 27 we have a shooting guard, etc. That's what's happening here. Now, just like with if-then statements, where you can have multiple criteria for how it makes a decision, you of course can do the same thing with the case when statements inside SQL. So now we're just going to add a little bit to this code. We're not going to change anything. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to make the yes longer so that it stands out more. So it looks silly, but that's just to help you to see it in the video. So we're going to put yes. Now we're going to put a no. So now we're going to have two behaviors. If the column meets the criteria for being a shooting guard, it'll say yes. If not, it'll just say no, single quotation marks. And that's it. So now we press Control Enter in our database, and you can clearly see now that all the null values that you just saw a few moments ago have been replaced with no. And now, because I made the yes longer and silly, you can also see where there is a shooting guard. So again, row 2, we saw that guy before. Row 27 as well. And we could keep going forever. Row 68, row 70, row 73, on and on. Now, what happened in this previous example is that we created an action when our criteria was not met. In other words, when it was no, or when it was false, if you will, then it'll replace the null value with the no. When we meet the criteria for shooting guard, it will put a yes in this new column that we created called shooting guard. That's what happened there. Now, for our next example, we're going to add another criteria. So we're going to start dealing with our team column, if you will. So SG, so we're just going to add to our code here. I'll put or team equals CHS. I guess this was a team a long time ago in the NBA. So now we're going to get a yes for one of two reasons. The position is shooting guard, or the team that the player is on is CHS, whatever that stands for. So we press Control Enter, and you can see there was a small change. Now in row 3, even though this guy's a small forward, because he's on the team CHS, we got a yes. And even down here in row 17, this guy's a guard. He's not a shooting guard, but because he's on CHS, we got a yes as well. And so everything else stayed no. So this is a way to continue to add different criteria to this. And just like with the where clause, where you can use like and or in, you can also do the same thing with these case when statements. That's what's happening here. Now, for our last example for this video, it's going to get a little bit more complicated. So I need to rearrange some things here. We are going to be looking at the points now. And so what we're going to do is we're going to select points, and then we're going to do case when. And what's going to happen is that we're going to have multiple criteria. And so we're going to create a new column based on however many points that player scored. So first one is going to be 2,500. Then we're going to say over 2,500. Next, we're going to say when PTS is greater than 1,500 and PTS is less than 2499, then we're going to say over 1,500. Let me fix that V. Now let's see here. Just copy this and save some time. Now, when points is greater than 500, but less than 1499, we're going to say over 500. And so if it doesn't meet any of these, we're just going to put else. And we're going to say less than 500. And we're going to end as PTS underscore groups. So what's happening here is that when we run this code, we're looking at the points column, how many points each player scored, however it was recorded in this database. And so if a player scores over 2,500 points, we're going to, in the new column, we're going to put this categorical label here, over 2,500. If they score between 1,500 and 2,499, it's over 1,500. And if they score over 500 but less than 1,499, we're going to put over 500. And then if they score less than 500, and then we're going to put less than 500, and there's going to be these, there will be. So here's the final code a second time. And so we have to put case when PTS is greater than 2,500. Then we're going to create in our new column over 2,500. And then right here, when PTS is greater than 1,500 and points is less than 2,499, then we're going to say over 1,500. And then when points is greater than 500 and points is less than 1,499, then we will say over 500. And anything else, which is basically any points less than 499, is going to be labeled as less than 500. And we're going to call this new column points underscore groups, excuse me. And so when you press Control Enter, you can see all of our different categories are clearly labeled right here. Everything is going according to plan. And this is yet another way of that you can implement and use case statements in SQL. So let me see if I can summarize what we talked about and conclude this video. So in this video, we looked at how to use the case when statements. The primary benefit of these is that they allow you to employ if-then statements while using SQL for whatever data analysis purposes you may have. And so again, for if-then statements, certain actions are taken when certain criteria are met, criteria are met. And so we did several different examples. In this last example, we have several different actions that can take place depending on how many points that particular player scored as it was recorded when this data was collected for this database. So my name is Darren Thomas. I am the Director of Educational Research Techniques. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video. Take care.